Hello, my ghosties. I am Phantom Enchantress, and I'm an enchantress. That's all I can say, really. I deal with spirits every day, and every day I learn something new, and the more I learn, the more I realize that there is no absolutes in this life. There is no formula that's gonna fit all. There's no path that just that we all take at the same time, and that would have to be a really big path to have all, how many billion of us are on the planet. And because I do believe that certain things may be predestined, certain things may be entirely up to us, and there's really no way of knowing. The life is very much like a choose your own adventure kind of thing. Depending on what you pick, you're going to get different outcomes. But maybe even that isn't for certain. Maybe even that isn't for sure. We don't really know, do we? We don't know. Positioning the camera, which I really should have done before all of this, but oh well. I'm here now. That's really what matters. And before we go into anything philosophical, we're going to get into a comment. I don't need to tell who it is, as I value people's privacy, and we don't have a lot of that. We don't have a lot of people valuing people's privacy nowadays. No, not with the internet. So I'm actually being a decent human being. Imagine that. So this person is saying, don't buy things from antique stores. Don't buy them. Don't buy them from antique stores and thrift stores. I'm telling you now, you're bringing old energy into your space. If someone dies suddenly and later you get their clothes at secondhand stores, old things bring bad things, but new. And end of comment. End of comment. That's the end of the comment. So, I'm gonna say this, and this is kind of what I said. I said, look, this is literally what I said. Where is my comment anyway? They disappeared. How about the newest comments? That would be mine. So, what I said to this when it comes to antiques, I said it's a personal preference, and it's also based on perspective and what you've experienced. The opinions that have been formed from your experiences and your characteristics and personality is the truth to you. Otherwise, however, our truth, meaning the other people in the group, maybe slightly different. It's okay for us to have different paths. And if you believe that it's bad to bring antiques into your home, then don't do it. Don't do it. However, I bought an antique mirror. That's what I was talking about. I bought an antique mirror home, and it has brought incredible blessings to my home. However, I don't expect you to have the same experience because you are a different person. Do you see how that did it? You see, I kind of, what I did is I made this where I made a comment where I was saying, this is true to you. I'm not telling that person that they are wrong. In their eyes, they are right. And I'm not saying that it's their truth or my truth, but what I'm saying is, if you believe that something bad is going to happen, trust your gut instinct, because sometimes that is the only thing that you can trust. Sometimes you can't trust other people, but you can trust yourself. But then there are other times where you can't trust yourself. See, there are always exceptions. That's the thing. When you put your opinion out there, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't. By all means, these things, social media is meant to have our opinion on there, but unfortunately, there's been something that's lost, and the one thing that hasn't been lost is that when you put your opinion out there, somehow, you're expecting other people to believe that that's all that there is. And I'm sorry, that's not reality. Reality is what we make of it. It is our perspective. And there are certain things that may disrupt that perspective. There are certain things that may end it completely. But what we're really doing is, I'm not saying that it's pointless that he's putting his thoughts out there, but it's quite possible that it was formed. As I said, opinions are formed by your experiences. So what I was saying is, this worked for me. It may not work for you. And that's why I don't like self-help, because self-help is always that way. They're like, this worked for me, then it can work for you. As if somehow there's some solution to everything that we know in the universe, and that it's just going to solve, and it's just going to be like magic, okay? Even magic isn't magic, okay? The things that you think of magic is Hollywood and Harry Potter. Magic, to me, is really, it is so many different things. Magic to me, I think, is love. It's having connections with people, but I also believe that magic is also our ability to change and adapt and evolve emotionally, mentally, and sometimes even physically. We may be even able to evolve somehow beyond what we're capable of. But and then someone just said, cleanse it. Just cleanse it, no problem. Yeah, and that's the thing. Also, this is a key thing. If you go to an antique shop that you've never been before, you don't know anything about anything, and you just stopped by, maybe it's one of those antique shops that just showed up out of nowhere, like one of those Hammer films with Peter Cushing, I'm not really here, but I'm there, I'm here, I'm everywhere, but nowhere, that kind of thing. I doubt if that's the case, but, antique shops showing up out of nowhere. But then again, carnivals do that all the time, so why not? At this point, everything that I've believed in and everything that I've thought that was the real thing has just been turned upside down. Because, and that's what's going to happen. When you learn new things, when you learn something, you're going to learn something that's going to contradict the things that you believe in. Because you're going to be shown something in a different perspective or in a different way. So, that being said, going back to the heart of this issue is, it really depends on where you get this. So if you've gotten this from somebody that is a friend, for instance, I got my antique mirror from a lovely little, it was just kind of a hole in the wall, and the woman was just very warm and friendly, and she was just mesmerized by her story. You would tell her a story and she would just be mesmerized by it. And you could tell her anything and it just wouldn't shock her. She was just like this very magical Christian lady, and I loved her, and she was so open-minded and willing to listen. And when I saw this mirror and I said, how much is that? And when I heard the price, I said, absolutely, I'll pay for it. I'll get that. And I put it right where the TV, I put it in a certain room because I didn't really know what to do with the mirror once I got it. And then it stayed in the main room, otherwise the living room, where there's a lot of social things going on. And then one day I decided, it's been out here for a couple of weeks, let me go and take it. So I took it and brought it into my room, and immediately I heard this heavenly laughter. I don't know if you've seen WALL-E, but WALL-E, WALL-E is, it's a CGI Pixar movie. If you've not seen it, it's fantastic, but, so Eva had this little laughter, and it was like, and it was very, very angelic to me. And so, that's the only thing that I could say that it sounded like. Her laughter sounded like Eva from WALL-E. And so, that brings, good memories and good feelings to me, because, I had an aunt that that I remember really wanting to see this movie, and an aunt of mine who I didn't really get to see very often. Like, I only got to see her like once a year. And so it was just really, it was really special, you know what I mean? Like, it was very special. Okay. So yeah, it was a very special occasion. I don't know why. Excuse me. Being interrupted here. Yes, just had to do something. There was a beetle, and I was trying to move it in a different place. Don't ask me how a beetle got in here. I don't know. It's a harmless beetle. And I was just making sure, that it was off the bed, so I wasn't gonna crush it. And I'm not usually that way. I'm not like a tree hugger, like, or that kind of thing. But it hasn't done anything to me, so. But as I was saying, yes, I brought that mirror home, and essentially, it has been a blessing to me. And so about my aunt, I didn't see this. Let's say I saw her once a year, and she wasn't really into movies or TV. In fact, she was kind of an anti-TV person, and movies to her were kind of a rarity. And I remember really wanting to see this, and she took me to see WALL-E. And so WALL-E to me is like it's very near and dear to my heart. And, she kind of braved, and it meant a lot to me, because she wasn't a movie person, but she was willing to kind of be a part of my world. And I was somebody that was raised by TV, and a lot of people were raised by the internet. I did not have internet for most of my life. Most of my life, internet for me is actually pretty new. It's pretty new for me, I can say for more than half of my life, I have not had internet. I did not have phones. I didn't have that kind of thing. To have a DVD player was exceptional. To me, it was like a miracle, because, I had waited that long for a DVD player. And now DVD players are out of style. So it really is something, it's really something, it really dawns on you when you realize 2005 was 20 years ago. And you're thinking about that, it's just seeing these movies. But the thing is, when you see these movies, it's almost like I'm experiencing them. When I see a movie, it's almost like I'm going back in time in a way. And that's why I like movies. But because you can visually see it, you can feel it, and it's really it's almost an all-encompassing kind of thing, and it can bring people together as well. So movies are very valuable in that sense. But Eva, to me, so I really think that spirits will come to you, and they will appear to you in a way that is going to connect with you either emotionally, and because they speak through emotions, so they want something not so much to manipulate you, but just so that they can communicate with you. And they will do that in any way possible, especially if they know that you can hear them. I've had on several occasions when spirits, or I actually had the ghost of a girl. I was at Marshall's, and Marshall's is kind of TJ Maxx owns it. They got a hold of it somehow. I don't know how that happened, but I don't really follow that. But I went to Marshall's, and I remember just looking at a doll on the shelf and not being able to kind of look away. Like, I would, but then it just felt wrong. It felt like I was... And immediately this little girl kept saying, "Can you see me?" I was like, "Yeah." Yeah, I can see you. I can see you just fine. Well, not really. I mean, can I physically see them? No, not necessarily. But, she's like, you can hear me. And I said, yes. And so immediately that's very, very attractive to, not attractive, obviously not physically because they don't really have a physical form, but that's very appealing to them. They find that, and when I say attractive, I mean actually attracting. It attracts them. It attracts them, and many things will attract a spirit. I also am a firm believer that some spirits will lie dormant. I've had many spirits come to me and say, yes, like, have you known me for a while? And they will say, yes, I've known you for a while, but at the time you couldn't hear me, or you couldn't understand me, or there were all these different dynamics. And sometimes, as our perspectives change, we open ourselves to new ideas and new concepts. And when we are able to open our mind to these ideas and concepts, we find out, wow, no, these are actually a reality. This isn't just a concept. This wasn't just an idea. This wasn't just, oh, I thought I would write that down. Because we have things that pop into our head all the time. And who's to say that somebody wasn't trying to reach you right then and there? Who's to say? You know, there's no way to prove it. So, you know, you can either go either way. You could say, well, there's nothing here to prove it, but you just know it exists, you know what I mean? And there's some things in this day and age that, I mean, I could, and it comes down to it, this is really mind-blowing to me, is that you can go to someone and say, look, this exists, okay? And let's say that it's not something like a spirit realm, it's not anything like that. Let's say that it's not anything like that at all. Let's say it's one of those things where I can scientifically prove this. I can Google it and it exists. So, synesthesia, okay? That is the neurological ability to perceive numbers or images through sound. You don't see the actual sound. What you see is merely it's the way that the brain processes it. Now, it has been scientifically proven, but it's also kind of tricky because, in a way, I could show you all the neurologists that believe that this exists, that have this condition. And it goes from being a beautiful experience to being very difficult because of every sound and every number has a color that's added to it. And they've done, you know, it's scientifically proven, but, you know, for instance, you know, let's say I tried to explain something that was just everybody knew, like rain, for instance. Rain exists, it's water, it's from the sky. Now, if I sat there and I said, okay, here are the points of how this exists. These are the evidence. This is actual physical evidence I'm showing you. You could potentially deny it. If you deny that evidence that I'm giving you, it doesn't exist to you, does it? If you trap yourself in a room and never leave outside like an agoraphobic, it doesn't exist, does it? It doesn't really exist. And you can, with all of us, when we go out there and we look up information for something that we want to know about, we have to decide which source we want to use. We have to decide, are we going to follow the TMZ? Are we going to follow People? Are we going to follow Christian Monitor? What are we going to do, Or are we going to, and it depends what subjects we're looking at. Are we going to use, WebMD to figure out what's causing these problems? No, probably not. Don't do that. But when it comes to especially if you're tentious. If you're a tentious kind of person and you look things up, I've heard of people don't. If you have like some sort of ailment, I would recommend just going to a doctor or you know. But unfortunately, for some of us, when we look up more information, it just adds an overload, and it just like I know people that will just sit there and scroll through information, very detailed information, I might add, and then all of a sudden they're dying. Okay, so it's, if you have hypochondriac tendencies, best not to consult WebMD, or you have some anxieties. I would not recommend doing that, but you still get to choose what you're doing, what information you accept, because if something is contrary to everything that you've ever known, are you going to believe it? No. So that's why a lot of spirits and such won't give you all the information right then and there. If they give you all the secrets of the universe, do you think that you could contain it? Do you think that you could take it? I mean, just for instance, if there's something like that, you know, and there's a lot of Star Trek stuff that has involved with that, and it would be very painful if we were to suddenly have all of the answers. So we have the potential to learn infinitely, as do spirits, and they are able to grow and to learn and to evolve even in their spirit form. I believe that they can, because if they are able to move on from this plane of existence and stay here, I think they're capable of a lot more than we give them credit for. And just because it's and I say this all the time, that's why I don't like absolutes. I used to use absolutes, that's why I don't like them. Do I mean to be absolute? Do I mean to use these? No, it just comes out sometimes. And it's not that I see things black and white. I know it's there's a whole spectrum of colors that we can choose from. But it's sometimes hard to focus on all of them. So sometimes we will look at things in a black and white perspective. The thing is finding balance, is sometimes we have to bring out the other colors too, because we can't all be black and white. We gotta be a purple. There needs to be a chartreuse. There needs to be an orange. There needs to be something else in the spectrum, because otherwise life would be dull without these diversities and things. Now, some diversities we don't need necessarily, but when it comes to life, there's no absolutes. There's nothing that's going to be for certain because you did this or did that. And even when it comes to choose your own adventure kind of thing, whether it's a book or a game, there's no absolutes with that either. You think the game gives you this illusion that you're in control. You're not. You're not in control. But there are things that we can control, and that is ourselves. That is the only thing that is truly certain. That is, we can control ourselves. We can't control what other people do, but we can control ourselves. Thank goodness for that. Sometimes there are exceptions, though, and that's the thing. I've found that everything that I've said, there's an exception to it. You know what I mean? Everything that I say, everything that I see, everything that you tell me, there's going to be an exception. Because there might be that one person that maybe didn't have that experience, or these other group of people that didn't have that experience. So it's a little bit dangerous when you put absolutes on the internet, and saying don't bring any antiques home. As I said, I brought my antique home because I knew the woman that owned it. I was talking to the woman that was managing it. And I trusted these people. So where you get your antiques really, really depends upon it. And also cleansing. I'm sorry for those of you that are not magically inclined. Cleansing does work. But I am not one of those witches that go there and be like, oh my gosh, I can't have anybody touch my tarot cards, or please don't touch any of my stuffies. I'm not that freaking paranoid. I know that there are people that are like that are a little bit paranoid, Now, the things that I do ritualistically to protect myself, or my Ouija board, or that kind of thing, that is precautionary. That's the thing with anything. That's when it comes to Ouija boards. Ouija boards kind of does open up a lot of infinite possibilities. Life is full of infinite possibilities. So, do we stop living because these possibilities could be bad? No, we don't. So the same thing goes for a Ouija board. A Ouija board can be a wonderful tool to use to explore the universe, and not just spirits that are here, there, or in certain places. I've had people say, oh, you can't communicate with this, you can't communicate. Guess what? Anything's possible. Anything is possible, okay? People tell you, oh, no, I never did that. Okay, just because you never did that doesn't mean that I'm never going to do that. And just because this happened to you does not mean it's going to happen to me, because I'm a different person. I'm going to make different choices. My perspective is different. So my choices are going to hit a little bit differently. My emotions may not be in the same place. So for instance, I've not had any negative experiences with the Ouija board. Can you believe that? I haven't. You know why? Because I educated myself, and I strive to have a good time. I organize. I say, this is what I want to have happen. I'm not anal. I'm not like anal retentive, and I'm like, no. What I do is I very respectfully put my board down, put it on my lap, and I call upon the spirit that is either my angel or a trusted spirit. And I will say, if this is possible, may I contact this spirit? And it works wonderfully, because I've actually decided, for instance, if somebody gave you a device that could do 3 things, okay? Let's say we live in a universe, Star Trek universe, okay? Kind of Star Trek, like Star Trek what? Kind of universe, okay? We live in a Star Trek universe, and I've given you a device that can open a portal, but can also communicate. And not only that, but can bring things to you. So it could summon it. So it's just like in Harry Potter, it could just go and it's in your hands. Somebody gave you that device, would you reject it? Would you throw it in the middle of the road to be run over? Would you stomp on it? Would you burn it? Would you destroy it? Or would you keep it as something very safe and sacred? Would you keep it you would keep it safe, obviously. Make sure that it has something to be around it, because, this is maybe a very, very delicate piece of machinery. That is a Ouija board. Okay, it has the ability to summon spirits. It's not just inviting them, it can summon them, it can open up a portal, and it can attract them. You're sending out a signal. You do realize that this is not just your average communication device. This is a communication device that is very complex. And the first thing that you do when you have a complex device like your phone, for instance, which is a very versatile piece of equipment as well, but the Ouija board goes even beyond that. It is talking, instead of actually talking to people that you can physically see, it's talking to things that you can't see. Not just things, entities, sentient beings that have independence. They could live in between worlds. They could live in the void. We don't know. You know what I mean? And it's allowing you to communicate with them. And if you want to, you can allow them to be in your actual living space. Now, so many people demonize this because they are not using it correctly. They don't understand the magnitude, the strength of having such a device and knowing how to use it. It's just like anything. If I grab my phone and I stare at it, is it going to do anything? No. Now, if I use it a little bit and I figure it out and I try to figure out what's going on and being, okay, well, my finger, obviously, it's touch automated, it's through touch. So I have to touch this and then kind of scroll things in, scroll and do that, and then, I have to figure out how this functions. Now, if I don't figure out how this functions, do you know what happens? It's not going to function very well. Yeah. It's just like, it's one of those things. It's going to work. It's going to work. But you're going to only know how to do the basic things in it. And when you only know the basic things about a certain thing, you're not going to know how to, you're not unlocking all of those other things that you have. It's almost like, it's almost like, you're having you have a piece of machinery, but you're only going 5 miles per hour. Okay, you get your really nice race car, and you're only going 5 miles per hour, okay? Yeah, it's functioning as a car, but it's not going anywhere. So that is exactly what it is if you don't know how something functions. And you don't have to know the complexities of what's inside this. You don't need to know that. You don't need to know how it's put together or how algorithms work or any of those things. But having a firm grasp on how this works is really good, because you're using it as intended. Obviously, full power. Full power, Captain. The shields are on 100%, okay? Obviously, you're not going to have 100% grasp of things. But the best way to learn is experience. So, and contrary to what people tell you, and this is actually a little theory that I have. You can do a Ouija board alone. I've done it many times, okay? And what's great about doing things like the Ouija board alone is because you can focus on your own energy. And if you're an empath, you don't have to worry about someone else's energy disrupting yours or trying to get that person to help, or you might have to say, okay, stop being so tense, stop doing this, or put the blindfold on me, do that, do this, that kind of thing. You just got to worry about you. And it's really hard to worry about you when you got somebody else to worry about. I mean, if you're a parent, or you've had siblings, or you've had any time where you've had to be responsible for either children or pets or things, you never can worry about yourself when you're worrying about other people. That's just the way it is. And when you're an empath and you feel other people's emotions, definitely sure. That's definitely for sure, because you're worrying about, are their energy matching mine? When it's just really the spirit, you have less to deal with, because it's just the spirit and the spirits and you. It's one-on-one. That sounds really scary, and it sounds like you're all alone, but you're never alone. You're never alone. If you believe in the existence of spirits, you have never been alone ever in your life. As long as you have been, the moment you opened your eyes and came into this world, you have never been alone. And that is a comforting thought. We don't know who's there or what spirits have been there, but I can tell you there's a reason these spirits have a connection with us, and sometimes it's because they've personally experienced our lives. They've watched it. They've felt our emotions. They've gone through the sorrows that we've gone through. And when you have someone that has been through that, there's obviously some sort of telepathic connection. There's obviously something going on there. But when you have a Ouija board session just right there, it's just you, and it's awesome, because and as I said, experience is the best way to learn. But as I said, experience without knowledge is probably not the best thing. So, and that's what a lot of people, teenagers, strive to do, is experience, because they haven't had experiences. So Ouija board to them is just really just another experience for them. And so no judgment on them, because those are children. Children are very much innocent, because they don't understand the magnitude. When they do something, there are consequences. They don't quite understand that quite yet. Like, they understand that, yeah, every action there is a reaction, but they don't quite understand how powerful they are, and how helpless they can be when they realize they don't know everything. They don't. And that's okay not to know everything. You're not meant to know everything. We're not gods. But we can learn new things, and by doing that, we learn slowly. Just like anything, like a diet, losing weight. It needs to be done slowly. You slowly integrate new things into your life. And hopefully, your experiences will be positive. And I'm going to say, the first time I used a Ouija board, it was it was a stained wood board with bat on it. Loved it. And the first thing I did, it was so awkward, because I am the person, I like to be in control, okay? We all like to be in control. It's just a thing. We like to be in control. So I was so bundled up. I was like, I'm not gonna let anybody control this session. It's just me. And there was a lot of resistance. I was raised by a grammar, a woman that was really concerned about grammar, constantly correcting me. Yeah, one of those. The grammar Karens. Yeah, one of those. It's you know, I'd actually get screamed at if I said the wrong grammar, so that was great. Nice and constructive criticism. Thank you. No, it was abusive. But other than that, yeah, I value grammar, and I'm glad. I'm not happy about the abuse that I got from that, but I am happy that I have a good grasp of the English language. I'm still learning about it, and I'm still worried about the fact why English was created in the first place, because it doesn't really make any sense. All the other languages seem to have some sort of logic, but ours is just a conglomeration of everybody else's language. It's great, but I speak it just fine most of the time. Most of the time, I can communicate and bring my, get my thoughts out. But other than that, it's really puts it in perspective. Is that the Ouija board really is. I think Hasbro does this. They say don't do it by yourself. Well, first of all, it's a board game. Hasbro classifies it as a game. It's not, but okay, we're not gonna nitpick about that. But the theory is, don't do it alone. I'm just saying, if you're selling a product and it's meant to be, like Monopoly. Let's say you get Monopoly at Walmart. It's probably going to tell you, oh, yeah, don't do this as one player, because it's just stupid. It's pointless for you to do it by yourself. So they are thinking in terms of, let's make it more fun. They're just trying to sell something. It's a gimmick for them. So that's kind of my theory, is that the reason they've done that and said don't do it on your own is because they want you to get the full experience. They want you to get the full sensationalism of it all, and that's kind of all that they think it is. They don't believe that it's a tool. And I'm gonna say, if you get something, well, let's say, this is one of my favorite boards, one of my all-time favorite boards. Such a smooth glider, and just from the Ukraine, and I didn't break my bank with it either. I did not have to break the bank. Didn't have to break anyone. And it was affordable. The only thing is, the bigger they are on Etsy, I'm gonna say, Etsy is one of those things. I am very selective about that, because they will tell you, they'll say, hey, this is $20, but it's only for the planchet. You said it was $20 on the product, on your app. That's great marketing. But thank goodness I'm not a Karen, and I'm not going to talk to your manager, because you probably are the manager. And then I have to go corporate, and then I have to get Etsy involved, and yeah, don't really want a lawsuit because of that. But here we go. So yeah, the bigger they are, the more expensive they're going to be. So if you're going to buy something, you're going to have to look around a little bit, because some things will be a really good price other times. But I would recommend spending over $30 for a board if you're gonna get, because I have some cheapo boards. They're not even plywood. They're made of recycled wood that is it's recycled wood that has been put into a mold. Yes, it's recycled wood that's been put into a mold and made into this. But this was actually carved. This was carved. I don't know if it was laser treatment or that kind of thing, but it was carved. The wood is stained, so I don't know what kind of wood this is really. But it was from Ukraine, and of course, I support Ukraine. And I'm glad that it kind of makes me feel like a good person. Makes me feel good about myself. No. But you get something like this, and it's just wood, okay? What really comes down to is, this is just wood. It doesn't do anything. If I sit and stare at it, it's not going to do anything. If I leave this right here all night, it's not going to do anything. If I put it outside, it's not going to do anything. It'll probably come up missing, though. Because people are assholes. But yeah, so it might come up missing. Yeah, don't leave things out. And just to be fair, don't burn these. That's not a thing. Nobody has ever burned things unless it's actually on fire already. Don't burn it. No, don't burn it. Don't do it. Nah. Please, for me, don't do that. I mean, what you do is up to you, but I would not recommend burning them. So when I say don't do that, you can do what you want. That's the thing. So really, what I have to say doesn't really matter. No, I'm just joking. But a board is a board, okay? If you're skeptical and you don't believe in anything that has to do with the spirit realm, you don't believe in magic, don't believe in anything but yourself, yeah, it's just a board. It's not going to do anything. But if you value this and you actually believe in spirits and you believe that you can do it, that you can communicate with spirits using this, then it's magical. Then it's magical. But magical is one of those things that you have to believe that it exists. It doesn't just happen. And magic, if you know anything about it, magic is really just belief. It's a lot of sight. It's a lot of things that represent other things. So, for instance, certain Christians will do certain rituals to represent Christ, to represent who they believe in. Very much the same with witches. Witches will go through things that are not satanic. They're just rituals. They're just rituals. Rituals as in, like, rituals for you may be just brushing your teeth, or going to bed at a decent hour, or having dinner, that kind of thing. Those are things that are necessary for survival, but there are certain things that we do that don't make sense, but they make sense to our brain. And so some of them are just simple mental tactics that are supposed to help you. And yes, sometimes they do work through repetition, but for the most part, most witches use magic to improve themselves. It's not like I can sit here, form a candle and then be in a pentagram and then automatically, like, have things move. It's not like Charmed. It's very simple. Sometimes magic is just something that you feel rather than something you see. And as disappointing as that may be, as much as I would like to suddenly have the power to levitate things, I might not be at that point yet. And it might not be possible. Which I'm hoping that isn't the case. But I'm hoping that that's not the case. But then again, I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping that it's not the case. But, maybe it's one of those things where I have to reach to a certain point in my life where I can have telekinesis. I don't know. I really don't know. But I'm open to the possibility, and I'm not closing it off. I'm not closing that door. But a wise man once said, when a door opens, when the door closes, it opens again. Because that's how doors work. Yeah. Don't close the door. Leave them open. Leave them open. Or open them again. Because there are some doors that you have to open up again in order to find, you have to open the doors that you've already opened to find out the answer. Because in a lot of reasons, a lot of ways, in a lot of ways, there are some things that we just need to revisit and see again, because the things that we've seen, we may see things in a new perspective. We may see things that we didn't see before. It may be just might seem the same, but it doesn't necessarily mean that is what we're seeing. And what we feel is not often what's really going on, and what we see is not sometimes what's going on either. We cannot trust even ourselves at times. But that doesn't mean that we stop living. That doesn't mean that we stop trying to understand what's out there. Life is not meaningless, because every day I find that there is a new meaning and a new understanding, a new truth that I thought that never existed. And the more that I learn and the more that I open myself up to these possibilities, the more at peace I feel with myself, because I feel sometimes I have to stop for a little bit and just go, is this me? Is this really me? Is this me that's speaking? Because the person I am now is not the person I was 5 minutes ago. It's not the person I was 5 seconds ago. It's not the person I was 5 months ago, 5 years ago, 5 decades ago. Wait, I'm not even that old. But I'm not 50. I am not 50, that's all I know. I am much younger. I am the much younger woman. I suppose. But yeah, the more that I explore, the more that I experience, whether it's a new game or a new video, a new person, as I find something out about myself. And I think that's what the real magic is. The real magic is within us. It's not out there sometimes. And that's what we always are conditioned to think. We're conditioned to think we need to go to a building. We need to go to a circle. We need to go to a coven. We need to join a cult. We need to join a church. We need to join a charity. You know, we need to join something to find that magic that we have, when really the magic is within us. And that magic is us, is our ability to change our perspectives, the way that we think, the way that we feel. That is the real magic. And if you're thinking that we witches are sitting there, you know, we have an altar with skeletons on it and some chicken, you know, chicken foot hanging from there, and you know, like a bowl of blood there. That's not really what I mean. That may be in some fantasy land, that may be the case, but sometimes a witch is just somebody that is just taking a unique path outside of the norm. And it's magical when we're able to actually look at other people. The real magic is really being able to look at people in their walk of life and not bring judgment upon them, but rather see, hey, you're a person. You're very different from me, but you're like me because you have skin cells, you have a skeleton, you got hair. Well, some of us do. You know, and your physiology is similar to mine. You're a person. So why should I be treating you differently because you think differently, or that you talk differently, or that you might want to be with somebody different, you know, or you might want to be a different gender. Am I gonna stop and think, oh my gosh, that's just a different kind of person? It's just a different kind of person. It doesn't make them any less or any more. It just is a person. And when I realized that, I was just like, you know, it's just like, oh my gosh, thinking to myself, a person's a person. And everybody has value, everybody has meaning. But every meaning is different from person to person. One person might say, hey, you know, my meaning to life is Jennifer Lawrence. You know, somebody might think that is the you know, that is their goddess, you know, that is their deity or their god. Then by all means, you know, you know, I think, you know, maybe we think that Betty White was an angel. Okay, maybe she's your inner goddess. I wish she was my inner goddess. I really do. I already have one, but I wish she was, but no. But you know, I think, you know, we all have what we think of as our higher power. And when it comes down to it, and we're sitting there arguing about, no, God's this, no, my goddess is this, or no, this is evil, we're all debating about what we think of and what we see, when we really don't know. We really don't know. We don't even know what happened last week. We don't know what's going to happen the next week. Do we really know what God looks like? Okay, there's descriptions in the Bible, but there's a little something. This is a little tidbit. By the way, so when you translate languages and you translate them, otherwise you you go the effort of translating. Let's say, okay, I am going to translate something from Spanish into English. I'm gonna have to use some pretty. The thing about translating or interpreting languages is that it comes out a little different, and every time you translate it, it comes out differently and eventually you get into 14 and up. Otherwise, I'm getting more languages and interpreting them and then getting them into English. Guess what you get? Gobbledygook. Have you ever seen Twisted Translations or Google Translate with Melinda? She shows that. The languages that she puts through, or her fans do, she gets like 250 different languages and then translates them into English, and they're songs that everybody knows, and it ends up being like "Take Me to the Pasta, Satan," or "Gradually Watermelon," or these things that just don't make sense, but somehow we're told, yeah, believe in the King James version, believe in all these different versions of the Bible. I'm not saying that the Bible doesn't have truth. I do believe that it does. I'm not denying that. I believe that there is truth everywhere. There is truth in every book, including the Quran, including all of those. I don't believe that they're wrong, or they're bad or evil, or that it's just complete fallacy, or that they're all fables. I think there's some truth. There's some wisdom that we can draw from it. But to build your entire life on words that are so far from what they were originally, that's not a really safe thing to do. Languages are incredible. Google Translate's incredible, but you have to learn how to use them and know that languages have a limit. Eventually, and the Bible has been translated in over 250 languages. So I think something was lost in translation. Something was really lost. I think a lot of things were lost. And so I'm not bashing the Bible at all. I'm not bashing people that believe in it. Not at all. I have enjoyed the Bible myself. Very, very much so. I've believed several things that are in it, and there's some things that I have taken to heart, while others I've taken with a grain of salt. But I believe that anything. And also another thing is, as much as, I do believe that it was inspired by God, obviously. I do believe that. But I also believe that there is other truth out there, and that some of these things that were written were not originally written for us specifically. And a lot of the times, like with Paul, he was writing to these churches, but people make laws, they make rules, they make these as if they are actual rules. They are words. Words can be twisted and misinterpreted and warped. And every one translation, one definition of a word can mean multiple things. 2 words can mean even more. And you take them out of context, oh, you've got a problem there. You take anything that I say out of context, you're going to have a problem, because you don't know what was... Let's say that I just started a story right in the middle of it. Is it going to make freaking sense to you? Let's just say I start up a show on Netflix, and it's right in the middle of the season. It's at the 4th season. It's not going to make sense. There are certain shows you can do that with, like Once Upon a Time, you can do that. You don't necessarily have to know what happened before. I did that. I've done certain things, just as long as you kind of know. There's recaps, so that really helps, but sometimes it's just not going to make sense if I just give you the middle part of what I just said. So, I could say, for instance, if you took out enough of my words, let's say, I really love goat lotion. I really love goat milk. I really love goat products. And, I love goats. Let's just say you got the last thing and you said, I love goats. So that's going to make me seem like I'm some sort of freaking furry. It's going to make me seem really, really weird. And, I don't love goats in that way, okay? I like them. I play Goat Simulator. Um, I just freaking destroy things on there. But okay, you know, because that's the whole point. You're supposed to be able to destroy things. If you've not tried Goat Simulator 3, amazing. Amazing. It is amazing. It's great. I love it. I'm probably gonna have to go into it again. So many things you can destroy. I mean, literally. I mean, you can be a goat and have you don't have to actually make any in-game purchases. You can just like get points. You can smash into an ATM machine. You can smash into people. There's no consequences because nobody dies. You don't die. You can literally you can literally run into a gas station and explode. You can get electrocuted and have electrical powers and just blast people away. And it is, yeah, it's awesome. And you know, it's definitely the ragdoll effect. The people are very ragdolly, so you know you don't have any consequences a lot of times. People keep saying that, you know, with Goat Simulator 1, there's actually a massive multiplayer game for Goat Simulator, and everybody keeps saying, "Oh my gosh, you know, why didn't they fix this?" Because it's Goat Simulator. It's meant to be glitchy. That was the whole idea about it. It wasn't meant to be like this big thing, but now Goat Simulator is big. It's on mobile, it is on Steam, it is on all sorts of platforms now. So, and it's very versatile, and the controls are quite good. I've only had a couple of mishaps, and that's usually with some of the mods that are involved. Obviously, when you add mods to anything, mods, if you don't know what that means a modification. So for instance, let's say you're playing a game and you want things to be... Now, there are certain games that do not allow this. Obviously, one of them being, please don't try this. The one thing is, you can't have mods when it's a massive multiplayer game. Anything you see that is, you know, different than you, they either paid money for it, or they frickin' hack the system, which is illegal. Yeah, don't do that. Follow the rules, obviously, but for a lot of things, you can have mods, and it's completely legal usually because, like with Skyrim, that has hundreds of mods. I mean, literally, you can get mods to do everything. You can have better, that improves everything that you experience. And Skyrim is also one of those games where you are infinitely playing, so you could be playing it for years, you could be playing it any amount of time. I mean, it's just one of those things that you can play for your whole life. Not joking about that. Like, you can do that. Goat Simulator is also one of those things you could probably infinitely play it, and that's the kind of games that I like to play. Skyrim is one of those things that I like to play because it's you get to take in the scenery. It's very much like Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings, but you don't pay to play. You actually, there's not a lot of expansions because it is just one expansion pack. There is one DLC, but that's really, you know, for me, expansions to me are an extra expense. I don't think that if you're gonna get a good game, I think that you should be able to just play it with just one game. You know what I mean? Now, unless it's one of those things where I have to like a game really, like, a lot to actually invest money into it, because to be honest, some things are very expensive and I don't necessarily want all of those things. For instance, House Flipper is one of those things that you would want to have, you would kind of like to have expansions because that makes it worthwhile. That is something I don't know if it has infinite amounts of stuff, but it very well might be. Any game you could play infinitely. to be honest. You could just play it over and over again. But when a game has something infinite like that, it's really cool. And but Goat Simulator is great because it's just mindless. You're just smashing shit. You're destroying everything you see, and you get points for it. Destruction. That's what I like. I like destruction. So, destroying things, killing things, of course, that's very therapeutic. I used to be one of those anti-gamer people, but when you've experienced gaming, it's hard not to see it from the gamer's perspective. I didn't grow up as a gamer. I was mostly a Flash gamer when I was doing that, but now, I'm fairly ambidextrous now, so I can do the games and that kind of thing. I get intimidated sometimes because there's a lot of people that are really good, and I'm just like on the cusp of learning. I'm just at this nascent kind of point where I kind of just woke up, but games are great, and yes, they can be therapeutic. But just like any tool, it can be a double-edged sword. It could be something that's not good, or it could be something that's really good for you, depending on the person and how you use it and how often. But I take time in my day to play games because it's fun, and it makes you forget a little bit about what's troubling you, and it can really help with your anxiety if you do it at the right moments. So I would say that there is therapy and a little bit of mindless violence when it comes to games and TV. So sometimes you just need a little mindless violence in your life. What's cool is at the end of the day, when you've killed all your enemies and you've headbutted all of those fences, you can come back to reality and live your life and be happy about it, I think. And, you didn't destroy anybody's life. You didn't do anything. You're right here, and you're right here in the then and right now, I guess, the present. But other than that, I hope what I said was good. I know it got a little spiritual and philosophical, but I'm kind of in that mood, you know what I mean? But I hope you all have a beautiful, blessed day, and I'm gonna be playing some Skyrim probably, cause yeah, I'm gonna play Skyrim. It's just what I want to do.